This is the baking powder biscuit recipe my mom has used for several years. She doesn't make them very often, but I found they're actually fairly easy. And the family wanted biscuits and gravy this morning, and they didn't have enough of the canned biscuits, so I went ahead and made my own here. So I went ahead and made a double batch today. Starts with 4 cups of flour. Went ahead and poured it into the measuring cup and then leveled it off. It makes for less flour in the dough because you're not compacting the flour into the measuring cup. It really makes a difference. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough flour at their house, so I had to grab the one from my house. Once we'll get that last one on in there, we'll grab the shortening, and it is half a cup of shortening. It was a 1/4 cup per batch, and I'm doing 2. So we'll use our dough mixer thing in there and get it all broken up. Look, Mom, I'm using my Christmas present. You're supposed to add the sugar, flour, and baking powder to this step, but I forgot or didn't read the recipe, so we'll be doing that here in just a moment. Now that we have the fats mixed in with the flour there, we'll go ahead and grab our sugar. We need 2 tablespoons of sugar. I only had half a tablespoon to work with, so we're doing 4 of those. And then it's 6 teaspoons of baking powder. I like to add a little more baking powder, but I forgot this time, so they didn't rise quite as much. After the baking powder comes the delicious 2 teaspoons of salt. Since I forgot to put it in with the fat, we'll go ahead and get it mixed up in so that it's distributed evenly throughout. The last ingredient to go in here is cold milk. We're going to be doing 1.5 cups because we doubled the recipe. It's normally 3/4 of a cup per batch, but since we doubled it, of course, we're doing 1.5 cups. And then we'll get our fingers on in there and get it mixed on up into kind of a dough ball. Kind of not. It's a bit looser than I wanted it, but it'll do just fine because then we'll get out a cutting board, flour it, dump it out on there, and we'll finish mixing it all together on the actual cutting board. Okay, there's our beautiful cutting board. Throw a little flour down and spread it on around. We'll dump it out. We're going to knead it so that it can get all incorporated together and get kind of a flat layer. Once we have it all incorporated, I'm going to flatten it out real quick, fold it over, flatten it again, fold it over, flatten it out again. Just trying to create a little bit of layers with it. I don't know where the fat is in there, but it seems to help pretty well. And once I'm satisfied with it, we'll roll it out and start cutting the biscuits. Alternately, you could do them as drop biscuits where you just pinch off a little ball of dough and drop it on a sheet. And that honestly is a lot less work, but I like the taller rising biscuits, so I'm going to cut them out using a glass mason jar. And that way I can put more on the pan and then they'll kind of buddy up and rise a little bit. They didn't rise as much as I was expecting. I didn't put them as close together as I could have. And then I forgot to put in a little more of the baking powder, so that didn't help as well. But I did get enough to fill this entire cookie sheet all the way to the edge. I do kind of wish I had a little more dough, so I could have done 1 more row of biscuits and got them a little tighter on the pan. But it is what it is. They still turned out delicious. Once these are all cut out and put on the cookie sheet, we'll put them in the oven at around 450 for 10 minutes. It's 10 to 12 minutes. I found in this case it was 10 minutes. I also didn't let them brown quite as much as I could have, so they weren't quite as crispy, but I was going for a very moist biscuit that I was going to put gravy on, so I didn't necessarily need it to be real crunchy and brown on the outside. I just needed it to be done so I could put gravy over it. Unfortunately, these turned out a bit drier than I was hoping. I think I needed a little bit more milk, but I digress. They're still very good biscuits. They made wonderful biscuits and gravy. After this last one gets cut, there's not really enough dough to roll it out again and do another cut, so we're just going to free form it into the little puck shape of a biscuit. Now that they're all out on the ungreased cookie sheet, we're going to throw them in the 450 degree oven for 10 minutes, and they turned out delicious.